Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kirusho here, and now, before we do start, let us give a brief little review. In the last part, a number of things have happened. We had Deku. Deku, Toru, and Todoroki. The three have enacted a plan to escape Impel down. Deku put himself through the ringer physically, mentally, and, well, emotionally. This has definitely been quite a bit of time and quite a bit of planning in the works. Deku wanted to make a name for himself as a very dangerous fruit user, even revealing his existence to the world. And that has been quite a lot of things. Now, Deku was able to break Todoroki and Toru from the restraints. The prison cut one simple corner. Sea stone is a very rare and expensive material to use. It might be abundant in some other places, but it's also one of the only things that can stop a devil fruit user from using their abilities. And Deku, he melted the interior metals that were not made of sea stone and broke the latches to their restraints. That did say quite a bit. Now, Deku was able to get their wristbands off, and Todoroki, whenever Magellan was lowered down into the cell Deku was in, he used a massive wave of ice to try and stop Magellan from attacking Deku with poison. He tried to save Deku, and Deku discovered a few things. Magellan's body is physical. Deku walked right through those bars to get out. Magellan had to try and use the door. He attacked Magellan's shoulder with Haki and blasted him with light just to make sure he was really seeing what he saw. And Deku currently just let it float there in the air. Right now, after Todoroki sent out that massive blast and the roof caved in, he shot himself upwards into the air to try and escape the collapsing building. And that does mean quite a lot of things. Currently Deku, he floats there flying up, and his momentum is slowing down. But he can feel it. His greasy hair. He can feel the skin on his face be warm again. He feels the sun. He feels the wind. And he's free. And Deku starts to fall. He has a lot going through his mind. He's finally tasting freedom once again. Finally feeling the sun, the warmth, the world. He's alive. This world is mostly covered in water. And that, Deku, he can understand. It's a very dangerous place for him right now, especially here at Impel Down. But Todoroki's abilities, they're definitely going to be useful to him. They are definitely going to be something he needs on his side. And right now Deku, as he's going to fly down, he's going to turn his body into light and smash Doki down onto the prison ceiling. People are going to watch as Deku, he doesn't stand there. Right now I'm going to stand back up and shine, as they realize exactly who the hell he is. And Deku's going to turn. Someone tried to blast out bullets towards him. I'm going to turn and blast his hands out, destroying the towers. Them going to actually explode in a brilliant flash of light. And around Todoroki, he actually saw him jump up on an ice pillar. Him and Toru both standing there, as he does a step forwards and look and see what Deku's doing. They're going to turn his hand and blast away one of the giant guard towers, it exploding and shaking the entire building. Now, Todoroki does a step forwards, expressing about how he thinks he took down Magellan. And, honestly, he's a bit confused as to why it was so anticlimactic. And Deku's a turn to him, expressing about how he really shouldn't think that way. Really. I've had a plan to try and take him down for years. Though if he is still alive, he's still alive. You think so? I do. Listen, Marines are calling for backup and they're incoming. Right now deal with the boats outside those gates. We'll make a plan to get out after that. For right now, Magellan's my problem. Toru, what can you do? What do you need me to do? Abilities, what can you do? Ability-wise, other than just transform. Take on physical powers. Quirks? No. What do you mean then? Strength. And size. I just need to think. What do you need? What's the most powerful thing in your arsenal? It wouldn't work here. It's too massive. You sure about that? Yes. Shit. Okay then. Stay out of the way for right now. Deku gonna turn, and Magellan currently is at least try and get out of the ice. Him going to step up onto the giant slide they basically made. And Magellan does a turn. Him going to actually bring his hand up and crush his hand into a fist, flexing his arm as the ice starts to crack. Him bringing his hand down and ripping off chunks of it. As Deku does a stare at Magellan. On the man, he actually doesn't look over towards his arm, seeing the injury, staring back up towards Deku. And Deku said tell Todoroki about what to do. Him understanding it, as he start running towards the edge and throwing out his hands, blasting down ice and turning the ocean into a floor of glass. Now, right now Todoroki does a leap down. Him gonna actually slide down the building as he does get ready. And the Marines, they do try to at least get to the prison, try and get things secure, but their boats are ripped up and pulled out of the water by massive amounts of ice. Many of them start to crack in half. Some straight out explode, because Todoroki, he's using such concussive force to rip those things apart. And that does quite a lot of things. But there actually is Deku. He does this stand there as Magellan is to at least seep poison from his body. And a giant dragon is seen by Deku. Deku doesn't watch on, as Toru does a stare at the massive creature and a turn. Her running over and actually gonna leap off the building to fly down. Now, Deku does a stare at Magellan, and Magellan stares back at Deku, finally understanding why a celestial dragon would possibly want him, why they'd want him at all. Deku's not a normal prisoner. He's a fucking devil fruit user. And he slipped through the tracks. He slipped through the cracks, I mean. He got through processing and survived. But they should have known in transportation he was a devil fruit user. How? How the hell is this possible? He could have gotten out at any time, any moment. So why is he here? And that doesn't concern Magellan. As right now Deku, he's to throw up his hands, sending out basically Gatling guns through his fingers. Right now him firing off light as the Hydras are fly towards him. It exploding into a massive cloud of mist as Deku to throw himself upwards and turn himself into light. The mist flying at him as Deku speeds up into the air out of it. And Deku, he currently is to reappear. Him turning back to human and blasting out his finger guns directly into the mist. Him hitting into the ground and making it explode. Magellan being sent flying forwards as he actually has to at least look down. And Deku, he has to move again. Him reappearing in front of Magellan, throwing his leg and kicking him directly in the side. Him sending Magellan flying towards one of the giant towers. And Deku, he has continued to turn his leg into light. It gonna shine bright as the poison does gonna burn off of his leg. And Deku, he does try to keep himself from breathing that in. It's turning into mist, and that has been quite a lot. Deku has a limited amount of attacks, until his body might start to feel the effects of all that poison. And he does have to be careful. Right now I'm going to turn back to Magellan. And Magellan, he actually starts sending out Hydras flying towards Deku. 3 of the massive creatures flying at him. One left, one right, and one directly overhead. And Deku's going to rush forwards. Right now him going to fly directly towards Magellan, as Magellan just sent a 4th Hydra. It flying right at Izuku, as Deku, who turned into a beam of light, is going to smash directly into the mist and go to actually fly through it. Him, we're now going to reappear in front of Magellan and bring up both of his hands. Him going to actually bring his hands up, flashing light directly into Magellan's eyes. And Magellan's quite alarmed. Him going to actually throw down his fist, smashing it down, as Deku, he actually thought he could phase through it. But Magellan uses Haki and smashes him right directly down into his left shoulder. Deku screaming out in pain, as Magellan, he actually is trying to blink back his vision, which is covered in dots. Now, Deku's actually going to throw up his hand and actually blast down at Magellan's legs and cutting into one of them with a beam of light. Magellan going to actually try and use armament Haki. And this is a bit more interesting, as Deku does send himself flying backwards and actually reforming his body again. Him taking a breath as he thinks that he's out of range of the poison. But Deku can already feel it taking effects inside of his body. He is already beginning to slow down a bit. He does have some speed, but Magellan, he might be able to predict his attacks. The man has Haki, which means he has a 6th sense and armor covering his body. So, he needs to make this fast. He needs a way to take down Magellan quickly. Todoroki is a good option, but there's also... that could work. Processing. Everything there. The baptism by fire. Maybe it's time Magellan properly understands this prison. He's the warden, so has he ever had a baptism? It will be quite interesting to know. And Deku, he does this to start Magellan, who's going to rush forwards and try and bring out more Hydras. He wants Deku inside of his range. he wants Deku to be affected and hurt. And Deku's going to watch the purple hydras fly directly towards him. Him bringing his hands up and going to blast them away as currently Deku's is shine brightly. Him bringing his hands up and making a path clear. He does a flash of light directly at Magellan's face, and Magellan does it to blink as Deku he doesn't reappear. Magellan not even seeing Deku as there's a kick him across the face and go flying towards another tower. And Deku he actually doesn't stand there, bringing his hands up and going to get ready, blasting a beam of light directly towards Magellan, waiting for him to at least get attacked. And the tower does explode. Magellan caught in the explosion, as right now there is where he doesn't try to get back up. Him more alarmed because Deku is fast, and that has been quite a lot. And Deku he isn't going to turn into a beam of light once more. Him rushing towards Magellan as Magellan doesn't try to think about exactly what he might do. And this time Magellan is going to throw down his arm and is trying to slash down with Hockey. Deku going to reappear as there actually is a throw out his hand and Magellan does actually catch his fist. Now, Magellan caught Deku's arm and does going to bring up his hand, infusing his fist with Hockey and poison and smashing Deku across Deku's face. And Deku, he actually is a bit more alarmed. Right now, he's going to use his own armor Hockey and then going to open his eyes using Conqueror's Hockey. The man actually somewhat surprised by Deku, possibly having the potential to be able to use all three forms. If I have that correct. Don't quote me on that. Now, currently Deku, he actually does then get smashed across the face again. As, right now Magellan, he does not care. He is not the Emperor of Impel Down, he's the Warden of Impel Down, and he will not stand for any of this. Deku is a feral beast let out of his cage, and he needs to be broken like a horse. He needs to understand he only lives because Magellan allows it. And that does mean quite a lot. He wants Deku to be tame, go back into his cage, and not act out like a feral beast. But that does not matter. Right now, Deku can actually throw up his hand, smashing it into Magellan's face as he actually started to increase the momentum behind the force. And Magellan's quite alarmed. Deku hits him with the force of a truck, and Magellan is somewhat sent flying backwards off of his feet, stumbling backwards as Deku actually bring up his hands, blasting out two beams, shooting Magellan directly in the arms. Magellan screaming out in pain as he's shot near his shoulder blades. Now, Magellan, he actually does look to stand there. He's going to rush back forwards as Deku's going to rush forwards as well. This time, him going to throw up his hands and send out another flash of light, trying to blind Magellan and keep him distracted. Now, Deku's then going to move backwards through the air. Him going to reappear and actually still going to flip his body, landing onto a destroyed guard tower and going to stand there, bringing up his hands and going to get ready. His hands going to shine bright. And Magellan, he is going to stand there and look around. Deku's not close by. He can't sense him. He can't get a read as to where he might be. But then he doesn't hear it. He hears a sound and looks, turning his head. He's trying to dodge out of the way as he actually is caught in the side by a beam of light. It's singeing his body and cutting into his poison armor, along with actually smashing into the Hockey he has surrounding his body. Now, this does surprise Magellan. It cut through and actually was able to injure his side, and his ribs, they feel like they're in pain. Deku's aiming to kill. Deku's aiming and not holding back, and Magellan's quite impressed. He can actually send out a massive amount of gas and smoke all around the area, covering the area as Deku, he should be inside the range. But Deku, he's going to fly upwards into the air. Him, right now, going to reappear as he actually sit there, still carried by his momentum, bringing his hands down and blasting down light as they're actually Todoroki. Todoroki does going to stand there. Him a few hundred feet away from Impel Down, and standing on the Arctic surface he created. I'm going to turn and look around, as there actually is where his breath can be seen. And right now, Todoroki, he's going to watch a massive beam of light shine from Impel Down. He's actually going to turn and bring up his hand. And he does think about how bright the sun is today, how bright the ice is out here. And Todoroki is going to turn, lowering his hand, realizing something. That's not the sun reflecting off the ice. That's Deku's power. And Todoroki is more alarmed by that. As right now the ice is going to shake, Todoroki is going to bring his hand down and try and make the ice thicker and thicker, thinking that it might be unstable. And Todoroki, he actually is going to feel the ground. It's not cracking because it's unstable. It's cracking because of the amount of force being thrown around at the prison. And right now Todoroki, he actually is going to bring his hands down and going to get ready. Right now behind Todoroki, basically a wall being formed and shooting him forwards, sliding across the ice. And Todoroki does get a move. Now, Todoroki, he does get ready. Right now, he's going to create a solid surface and launching himself up into the air. As there actually where he is flying through the air towards Impel down. And he is trying to think about what to do. Thinking about how exactly to handle the situation. And that has been quite a lot. And right now there is a Magellan, he actually is looking around, surrounded by the poisonous gas, and thinking about what to do. And there actually is Deku. Magellan right now going to dodge out of the way of a beam, and realizing exactly what he might have done. Deku might not know where he is, but Magellan does not know where Deku is. And on multiple beams, they are sent flying from one direction at Magellan. Magellan dodging out of the way of a few of them, as there actually is about 10 seconds later, where the beams that were being fired, they stopped and changed direction, flying at him for another one, as Magellan does someone get struck in the back of the shoulder and turn, blasting out a giant Hydra, as Deku, he actually has blasted away. Magellan, being alarmed, where Rabin is going to fly Doki down from the air, smashing to the ground and exploding underneath him. Him going to somewhat stumble backwards and jump out of the way from where he is, trying to find more and more solid ground. But it's starting to get harder and harder. And Deku, he actually does not whistle. Magellan turning his head, as right now there actually is where Deku, he doesn't want to stand there. Magellan going to rush towards Deku, as right now there actually is going to throw out his hand. Deku can actually throw up his arm and bring up Armament Hockey, grabbing onto Magellan, as Magellan is a bit more alarmed. This being where Deku is going to appear on Magellan's side and blast out his hand. Right now Magellan being pierced through the chest and screaming out in pain as the real Deku is going to appear. And Magellan is a bit more alarmed. I'm going to actually turn and blast at a giant Hydra, as Toru has actually turned her body into that of a large creature. I'm going to watch as Toru does it turn into a giant, bring her hands upwards and smashing the Doki down into Magellan. And Magellan's more alarmed, the concussive force blasting away the poison and making it disperse all away from the top of Impel down. And there actually is Todoroki, who does actually bring up his hands, or bring them down, and throw them down, making a massive glacier of ice. Him are not going to actually stand there on the battlefield, as they're actually sort of staring down. Seeing that Magellan, he's dealing with both a giant and Izuku Midoriya. And he's quite alarmed. Toru can actually somewhat change back her form and shrink back down, not knowing if the prison can actually even handle the weight of this giant creature. It's one of the most powerful things in her arsenal. She can mimic the size, shape, and mass of the creature, along with their physical power. So that does mean she has quite a bit in her back pocket. So, what exactly should she use next? It's quite interesting. And that is quite a bit. Magellan, he actually doesn't go to appear. Him going to actually create massive amounts of hydras and covering his body in more and more poison. And Deku, he currently is trying to aim for where Magellan's head might be. He wants to get this right. He wants to make sure he can hit Magellan and get him. And currently Tokiri does a slide down the pillar of ice and actually throw his hands down. Him trying to freeze the floor as he's going to yell out for Deku and Toru. And right now Deku does a leap upwards into the air as Toru does a somewhat turn and shapeshift again. Her turning into a Lunarian, as there actually is where she has to fly upwards into the air using the wings. And that does it quite a bit. Now, Deku does a turn and see her fly up into the air. Him more alarmed at the person in front of him. And Deku does not have time. Right now I'm actually going to turn and dodge out of the way of a Hydra that went flying towards him. However, it does disperse and pop right in front of him as Deku sort of breathes in the gas. Him turning a light and rushing towards Magellan. And Deku, he does appear right in front of him. Him actually going to swing up his leg as Magellan, he is then kicked upwards into the crotch. Magellan, more alarmed, as Deku is going to throw down his fist, smashing Magellan directly into the gut. And the man does not like being hit directly in either of those places. Now, Magellan is sent flying backwards as he's going to smash directly into another tower. And the man doesn't get back up. Him, annoyed, and bring up his hands, as Deku, he's going to create a spear out of light. Him going to actually make it on his leg and kick it upwards. Him grabbing the spear and charging it more, sending it flying directly towards the tower as Magellan does bring up his hand. Him actually able to catch the spear out of the air and burning his hands on it, actually doesn't turn and drop it. Deku firing another bullet fast. And Magellan, he's a dodge out of the way of the attack. Him actually going to stand on his feet and rush forwards. As Renato Todoroki, he does actually go to watch Magellan try and run on ice. Now, Magellan's at a massive disadvantage. There are two powerful Devil Fruit users here, and somebody who knows how to apply their abilities very well. He's outnumbered, and sadly, outgunned, though he does have to wait. Deku and Todoroki are affected by poison, and if he's right, so is that girl. So, a battle of endurance is all he needs. But they're using strategy, and that is actually slowing Magellan down. As for Magellan, he actually has to move forward, trying to slide on the ice using his poison, as essentially ice skates. Him covering his feet like how Mina would use it. Now, right now Magellan is going to slide on the ice. Him going to actually slide towards Suzuku as he was going to bring his hands down. Him going to actually blast down at the ice and going to explode, make the floor explode. Magellan being shaken up and right now confused. As Deku, he actually has to turn and yell at Todoroki, telling him that they need to get into processing. And Todoroki has a turn, so confused as he just doesn't realize why that is. A massive pot of boiling hot water is still water. Being submerged in it would lessen Magellan's powers. I mean, the poison's still in the air, but he can't produce anymore. He'll drown. And Todoroki doesn't understand. Right now, him actually going to turn and create a giant wall of ice to actually block Magellan's path, basically cutting the battlefield in half. Now, Deku's going to fly forwards. Him going to actually reappear as Magellan's going to turn. Him going to actually try and blast out his fist towards Deku, smash him across the face. Deku's actually going to kick his leg out, smashing Magellan in the body. Him going to send Magellan flying towards the massive building and crushing into the wall. Magellan flying through it and going to land onto the ground. As there actually is Toru. Toru is going to bring her hands up, and she actually has to try and look into the distance to see what's going on. She can see around all of the ice that no one showed up yet. Reinforcements aren't here. They still have time. And Toru does have an idea. Her wanting to make a bit more chaos for the people running the government. She's going to fly back down into Impel Down and find the keys. Find anyone who might be able to start unlocking the cells and releasing prisoners. That'll mean quite a bit. And while she's doing that, she actually is also trying to fight off the effects of the poison in her body. As Deku and Todoroki, the two dudes aren't going to stand there. And Magellan, he actually doesn't stand there in the building. I'm a bit more happy. Right now, they're in a building, a closed space, where his poison can infect the entire area. Here it won't dissipate because it just spreads out. It'll stay locked in. And that gives him a bit of an advantage. However, Magellan's forgetting one simple thing. A poison. The body he covers, his body that he covers in basically slime, is being covered in something close to a liquid state. And that is not very good. Magellan right now going to try and blast out a Hydra. Todoroki is going to bring up his hand and blast out the full power of his ice, making it cold, really fucking cold. Now, the Hydra is then covered in ice. Todoroki is going to watch it smash Todoroki down to the ground and break up in chunks. It letting off some gas, but not a massive amount. And right now Magellan is going to stare at that. I'm a lot more annoyed. Todoroki's capabilities are almost a counter to his, and that might be a problem. But Deku, he is a Russian. Him blasting out beams of light towards Magellan. And Magellan, he actually does try to dodge the way of many of them. Deku reappearing right in front of Magellan. Magellan's going to try and bring down his face, smashing down on Deku's shoulders, trying to cover him in poison. Now, Deku is actually going to bring up his hands, blocking Magellan's fist, and then going to open his palms, flashing light directly into Magellan's eyes. Magellan this time being blinded by a massive ray of light. As Deku does going to turn, throwing down his fist. Him going to actually rocket it towards Magellan, smashing him down into the ground. Magellan going to slide across the ground and go actually stop himself. Him going to actually get back up and just to hear the boiling pot. And then there is just a turn. Him actually going to feel some of the steam rising from the pot. Now, Magellan's more alarmed, and they're actually ready to try to bring his hands up and fly out poison in every direction. But they're actually Todoroki, who does throw his hands out and create a massive amount of chilled ice. Him blasting it towards Magellan and covering the man's entire body with it. And Magellan, he just gets sit there frozen in ice. As Deku, he does start to at least do one thing. He does to rush forwards, smashing into the ice and blasting out into it. The ice is going to explode. And no processing is going to shake and, well, it does start to collapse. The roof of the building going to collapse down as Magellan is sent flying backwards and the ice, it broke. Now, Magellan's falling through the air, and Render is smash down into the giant pot of water. The poison his body was covered in, it was mostly defrost, but Magellan, yeah, he was too, well, overpowered. And right now there actually is a Deku who does a step forwards, feeling the effects of the poison, and he actually to bring his hand down into his pocket. Him pulling out the devil fruit covered in wax. Deku, he does so to stare down towards Magellan, his vision going blurry as he actually to bring up his hands covering his eyes. Him taking a step backwards since he is to feel woozy, and he does not want to fall into the giant cauldron. Now, Deku does a smash onto the ground, and there is the fact that the poison, it's rushing through Deku's body. His incredible movement speed, the way he was moving his body at faster than normal reaction, it does mean quite a bit of things. He was exerting himself very, very much physically, meaning that the poison has had time to pump through his veins. Now, Deku, he already felt his ears ringing through that battle. He already felt the scratchiness in his throat. And right now, that does not seem very good. I'm going to turn and see Todoroki somewhat in a distance. And Deku, he actually doesn't climb to his feet. Him going to actually stare down at his hand as the devil fruit, it finally does start to reappear. The fruit going to shift and change, breaking up the wax as right now Deku, he's going to watch it break apart and form into the poison fruit, or the venom fruit, whichever name you really want to give it. Now, currently Deku, he does have a smile. Him going to somewhat start walking forwards and being careful. Right now his limbs are starting to feel heavy. His limbs are starting to feel strange. Very, very tight. And that's not really good. And currently there is where Deku, he's going to walk over to Todoroki. Todoroki on his hands and knees, breathing heavily, and trying to stay still. If he stays still, the poison doesn't pump through his veins as fast. His body has time to fight it in lesser amounts. And that does say quite a bit. Magellan was definitely powerful, and that's a bit of a concern. Right now I'm going to look up, and see as Deku's going to bend down and bring his hand out, grabbing onto Todoroki's shoulder and pulling him to his feet. And Todoroki doesn't hear it somewhat muffled. Deku say a sentence, but he did pick up a few words. Escape was one of them. Now, Todoroki, he does understand, and the two do to make their way out of the area. As currently there is Toru. Toru released some of the prisoners, and where she felt the building stop shaking, she flew back up in the form of a Lunarian to try and find out what the hell was going on. And that has been quite a lot. However, she found Deku and Todoroki, the two walking out of a building both alive without Magellan around. And that is quite a lot. Now, currently Toru does actually fly over and land, her taking back her human form and going to somewhat pant heavily, since the poison has been affecting her too. And that does concern her as well. They are slowing down and feeling the effects of everything. They need to escape. And Todoroki, he does somewhat speak out. Him going to actually point down towards the ice and try and tell them about what to do. And currently the three, they do to make their way to the edge of the prison and slide down the wall. Them sliding through the ice as they do finally find the edge of it. Right now Todoroki going to actually bring his hand down into the water and start to create a massive, massive, thick portion of ice. As there is where they do to actually step onto the portion, and Todoroki is going to turn. Him bringing his leg up, infusing it with hockey, and smashing it down on the part that's not as thick. As the ices start to break apart, and they do start to drift away. Todoroki currently going to actually sit down and lay there for a second. Him going to just lay there, flat out on the ground. As Toru does just sit there with Deku. And Deku, he actually is going to lay himself out on the ground as well. Him trying to absorb some sun. Now, the three were able to escape Impel down. But right now the hard part is not being caught after being escaped. Or getting out of the prison. Yeah. Though, it's definitely going to be interesting to hear. And Magellan, the warden of Impel down. It's going to be quite surprising when they learn that he was murdered. It's going to be definitely a bit of a shot to the ego for the world government. And Deku, he does wonder how that's going to go. As right now, we do actually have Toru, who does try and at least make sure the two are okay. Deku, he has a good poison resistance, but Todoroki, his is still being built. His isn't up to where Deku was. He mainly tried to survive in that forest and stay away from the spiders, kill them when they got to him. He didn't really think that escape could be possible unless he made a deal with the government. But now it's possible. Now it's real. And that has been quite a lot of things. Now, they are drifting out into the ocean and trying to figure out exactly what to do. The nearest mass of land might not be for a few hundred miles, and that is concerning. But right now they do just gotta let the current guide them through the water. Now, eventually they do try to at least try and plot things out. And Deku, as he says sit there, he is trying to talk. Though it is a bit hard to communicate whenever your ears are ringing and you can't really feel your tongue. Now, eventually they are able to all communicate. And whenever things are a lot easier, they finally do make a perfect plan. They were drifting for a few hours before they finally were able to pick a direction and sail that way. And currently Toru is awake. Her seeing something in the distance and actually someone trying to alert the two about what to do. And they do get to the island, at least what they think is an island. And right now they all do sit there. Toru trying to get Deku's attention, as Deku he already passed out, his body trying to fight the poison more. And Todoroki, he actually is barely conscious. Him trying to fight and keep himself awake because he doesn't want this ice to melt if he dies. And if he dies, these people will be set adrift for hours. And his devil fruit might go back to Impel Down. He knows they grow food there. And that's definitely a problem. He doesn't want to die. He doesn't want his power left on that fucking prison. And Todoroki, the moment he realized that they were near an island, he passed out. Since he was really tired, fighting to stay awake. And Deku, yeah. Currently whenever they do go to land onto the island, there's a Toru's that turn and grab them. Her gonna drag them off of the boat as currently she does get a run onto the beach. Her going to actually somewhat smash down onto the ground. And right now, she actually is feeling the effects of the poison as well. However, she doesn't have it as bad as these two. And that is quite a bit. Deku had a plan to get them out. A plan for them all to escape. And it worked. It actually worked. Though, she's really tired. Hurling on the beach. And right now, Toru does a turn as someone, they do go running up to her to try and find out who she is. But more importantly, who the other two might be. Now, we do actually have Deku, who does want to start to come to. It's been a few days, but he's awake and alive. Though his body does feel very stiff. It feels very sore. And that is not good. And right now, they're actually Deku. He does gonna find himself chained in a room. Him, however, in a bed, which does tell him quite a few things. He's still dirty and raggedy. His hair still feels wet from the ocean salt, or the seawater. So there is that. Though, it's something. And right now, Deku, he does want to look around. Him trying to get out, as there actually is to find his arms restrained, chained to the bed. Now, Deku, he actually does bring his hands down, and phase through them, as he does get somewhat turn and see somebody. Him more alarmed since they were just sitting there. And they do something look up. Finally seeing that Deku, he's awake. And they're quite alarmed. Right now they're going to stand up and walk away. As Deku does sit there. Him confused. And right now Deku does decide to lay down in bed and pretend like he's still got his restraints on his body. As someone, they currently do to walk in. Deku turning and seeing Toru. As the girl does stand there with a woman, and she's beautiful, but she looks very angry to see him. Now, the woman does introduce herself. Her name is Boa Hancock, and he is not supposed to be on her island. Now, with that being said, let's go over to somewhere else. Right now, someone does sit there. They are curious. They're still waiting on anything. And currently, they do get to hear a report on Impel Down and a possible escape from convicts. And that does say quite a bit of things. They have unconfirmed reports, but so far they have reports. A massive amount of Marines are dead, and currently the people at large are still yet to be identified. However, of the few, there are some who have been deemed devil fruit users, and the world government is going to offer a substantial amount for their capture. However, there are also reports that somebody may have used the Pika Pika no Mi. The devil fruit that's been presumed to have been lost for the last decade has finally made an appearance and reared its ugly head. Now, Momoto's gonna sit there, her finally alarmed that it happened, alarmed that Deku finally broke out of Impel down. She didn't know if Deku could escape, but this is a rather welcome development. And right now she does so turn and bring down her hand, grabbing her phone and deciding to make a few phone calls. Now, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed, and have an amazing day. I'll catch you guys in the next part.